irregular periods, painful periods, non-existent periods, periods that last way too long, terrible PMS symptoms. This is what we're diving into today. Welcome back, you guys. I'm excited to dive into this topic because this is something that so many women deal with and struggle with on a daily basis, but they're told, go on birth control. That will fix the problem. So if you're male, you don't want to tune into this episode, that's fine. You can skip this one and listen to the next one that drops next week. If you have a wife or sisters or daughters or someone that you feel like could really benefit from listening to this episode, you can either listen to it and send it to them or just send it to them and say, hey, this might be something that you want to take a listen and learn more about these things, and maybe it will help them. So, why do some women have much more extreme periods than others? And why do some women start their period sooner than others? Why do some women not have a period? Why are all of these things going on? And I'll dive into this because all of this is really, really important. What I want to invite you in, though, if you are someone that is really struggling with irregular periods or very harsh periods, I want to invite you in and let you know that getting your blood work done to see what is really going on behind the scenes is really, really important. And I want to just reiterate that early on here so that you know, because I'm going to dive into some of the things that are really important for you to get checked and that I check when working with clients on this. Listen, I've had moms with teenage daughters come to me and say, hey, my teenage daughters have really bad periods, very bad clotting. They're probably anemic, and yet their gynecologist won't test their thyroid or their hormones, and all they want to do is put them on birth control. And so we run blood work on them. We look to see like what is the body needing, what's missing, and what do we need to give them in order for these things to regulate? What I can tell you is this stuff is really important. Just because it's a young girl, you're either a teenager or in the 20s, irregular periods and very heavy debilitating periods shouldn't be a thing. They absolutely should not. And so it's very important to know that this testing is really important so that you know what to give the body. Now, this whole thing with like terrible periods and having PMS cramping and just be debilitating, society has made it normal. It's made it normal to be like, oh, it's just a period. And that's just what it is. It's just the way it's supposed to be. It's not. You're not supposed to have debilitating period cramps. You're not supposed to have immense mood swings and these huge fluctuations on food cravings and going into like depression or anxiety, or you're extra snappy on that week. Like that stuff shouldn't be happening. You will see and notice a shift, but some of the things that are normal is that you may be tired a little bit more. You might crave more like complex carbs because during that time you need to support your progesterone a little bit more, which I'll talk about. But with that being said, these things shouldn't be extreme. When I was a young teenager, I mean, I started my period when I was like 9. Didn't even know what a period was. Got my period, thought I was dying, wanted my mom to take me to the hospital. And then she's like, no, that's normal. You're going to get this every month. And then I was like, holy moly, like, why? And so there wasn't that much of an explanation on it, except for this is what's going to happen every month now. And these are the rules. And our rules in the Amish community where you can't go barefoot, which I stand behind because you want to keep the body warm during that time. We weren't allowed to run because that was too hard on the body. And we weren't allowed to lift heavy things. So we were only allowed to do light housework, and we weren't allowed to mop the floors. We weren't allowed to do a lot of things, but it mostly had to do with like heavy lifting. And their belief behind this was that the heavy lifting part was because they believe that if you do too much heavy lifting and hard work, it's strenuous on the body, and this will affect your ability to bear children later on in life. Whether there's truth to that, I don't know, but that's what they believe. Now, in terms of the barefoot part, I don't disagree with it because during this time, you do want to keep the body warm. So, as a teenager, I had the worst periods ever, like so bad that the first day that I would have my period, I couldn't even stand up straight to walk. Like I would be hunched over in a ball. I couldn't stand up. That's how bad my back pain was. And what I would have to do is go to bed in the middle of the day, which is like almost uncalled for as an Amish girl, but I couldn't function. I would have to go to bed, curl up, take a Tylenol or ibuprofen, and just make myself go to sleep. And doing that was the only thing that would help alleviate the pain. So then I would sleep for an hour or two. And then by the time I would wake up, it would have the pain eased up and I was able to kind of move around and stuff. But it got so bad. My mom was like, I don't know what to do. Like, this isn't normal. This isn't like you shouldn't have. So I was the only one out of all the girls at home that had periods that were that debilitating. And eventually she's like, drink salt water. So I would drink salt water, but that didn't like really fix the problem. And then she found out somewhere that drinking aloe vera juice is helpful for this. And so she would buy these gallons of aloe vera, and I would take aloe vera every single day, and it worked. The aloe vera like took away my pain, and I never had like that debilitating periods after that for whatever reason. I don't know the concept behind that. I don't really know like why. She just read it somewhere and I started taking it and it worked. So, what I will say though is, why is this? Like, why is it that there are some people that have really bad periods? And I'll tell you why for the most part. Okay. Number one, it's usually a deficiency in something new vitamins and minerals, nutrients, things that are lacking in the diet. But a big one is dehydration. So if you are dehydrated, when you're like getting ready to go into your period, your body shifts and your hormones change, and you're going to crave more of the progesterone supporting foods, which is going to be more of the complex carbs. So think of like potatoes and sweet potatoes and bananas and things like that. You might crave more of those things, but unfortunately, in the modern world, many people gravitate towards sugar and chocolate and carby things because they're like, oh my gosh, I'm like getting my period. I'm craving carbs. But those cravings are actually just telling you that you're missing things. You shouldn't be craving the highly processed foods. That's not what it should be. It's just your body saying, hey, something's missing. A lot of times it's also missing protein in that case. But a big part of these things are that you are dehydrated. So when you're dehydrated, your body can't flush. So when you go through your period, I want you to think of it as your body going through a cycle of detoxing and you're cleansing. And so leading up to your period, your body is preparing for that. And then once you get your period and you're going through it, your body's cleansing and recycling blood. If you're dehydrated, it's more difficult for your body to do that. So that's one thing. The second thing is you can be magnesium deficient. Most people are magnesium deficient. And what I usually tell all of my clients, like every single person gets on a good magnesium. I'll tell you which one I use. I'll have a link in the show notes because magnesium is so important. 99.9% of people are magnesium deficient. And magnesium has over 300 metabolic functions, hormone support, gut support, brain support. It's crucial to have enough magnesium. So, magnesium deficiency can make your periods and your period symptoms worse. So, typically, all of my clients are on some kind of magnesium, but that week leading up to the period, usually your digestion slows down, you'll have some of those symptoms. And what we usually do is we up the dose of magnesium that week leading up to the period. When we do that, it helps alleviate that bloating, the digestion, and helps, keep your digestion flowing because a lot of people get constipated that week leading up. God bless all the men. They don't have to deal with that. Women, we got so many fluctuations in our hormones and stuff. So when you're leading up to your period, everything in your digestion kind of slows down, especially if you're not eating right or you're deficient in these types of things. And so you can help alleviate some of that by upping your magnesium. And I like to take magnesium at night. My all-time favorite magnesium is from Buy Optimizers. I have a 10% discount code and my own personalized link with them. But that magnesium has all the essential magnesiums in it. The blend of magnesium that you need, and it has a small doses of B6 in there, which is also really awesome. And they also have some humic folic acid in it, which is like a mineral. That's really good. And I've used all kinds of magnesiums over the years, but I have to say this by far is my favorite one so far for myself. And so I'll have that link in the show notes. If you use Lizzie 10, you get 10% off and it's worth it. And then some other reasons of why, your periods can be the way that they are is just, your diet and your lifestyle aren't up to par. Like I can't tell you how many people I've helped just get their diet in a good place. They're getting good nutrition in, they're exercising and they're sleeping. And just by doing that, their periods come and go almost without notice. They're just like, I barely even notice when it comes anymore. I know when I'm on it, but like leading up to it, they're not recognizing it's not painful. It's just like, it's breezy, like it's easy. And I'm like, that's how it should be. And they're like, I've never had a period like this, but that's how it should be. But why is it like, what are some things that can contribute to your period being irregular? So I'll tell you two different stories. I have one gal that I've been working with for the last year. When she came to me a year ago, she was on a period for nonstop 4 months straight. Wouldn't stop. I'm like, how are you even living? Like, this is crazy. 4 months nonstop on a period. Okay. So the crazy thing about this is she went to many different doctors. They wanted to put her on birth control. They didn't even check her hormones and her full thyroid like they should have. They didn't check like vitamin and mineral deficiencies and any of these other things that they should have checked. They just said, we want you to go on birth control, which is so freaking annoying because birth control doesn't fix the problem. It masks the problem. I've also worked with people that were on birth control for, 15 to 20 years, and they went on it because of, issues with their period and how they were feeling. But when they got off that birth control, it was like a bus ran over them. All the symptoms and more came back, which is what I mean. Birth control is masking the actual root issue. So what birth control may do is it may help alleviate the symptoms. It may help make your life temporarily better, but it's not going to make it better long term because you haven't fixed the problem. And so, anyway, she was smart. She said, no, I don't want to go on birth control. I want to find out what's wrong. Why is this happening? And nobody would help her, which is why she came to me. And so we ran much more in-depth blood work. She went through my 12-week program, started helping her with her diet, really made a lot of changes there, got her on the right supplements. She ended up going through various different processes and stuff, but over time, eventually her period stopped. And I want to just paint a picture of how wellness and how healing your body takes time. You have to be so patient, okay? Hear me when I say that. Patience. Your body did not get to where it was in like a week or two. So you can't expect things to just go back in a week or two. You got to give it time. Okay, so where are we at a year later? So over the last year, she's, her period's been like coming and going and sometimes sooner than it should. So at first it would stop and then like 9 days later it would come again and it would last, whatever long period of time it wanted to. Then it would go away, then it would come again. So over time, and then eventually it spread out to, okay, now it's not coming for 3 weeks, which is great. And And then the over the course of time, it was shorter. So, the period started not being 2 weeks long. Then it started, cutting down a little bit more. And now, we just talked last week, and she said for the first time in I don't even know how many years, I've had a 29-day cycle. So it didn't come for 29 days like it should have. And it only lasted 5 days when she had it. And the reason I share that story with you is because it's really important to know, like, she didn't go on medication for any of this. She didn't go on birth control for any of this. We actually started giving her body what it's needing. And eventually it started to level out. And now here we are. And so now we look over the next year or so, hey, does this continue to level out? How does this, we want to get it to a place where we know that consistently now it's coming and going, and the rest of her stuff is where it needs to be. That is the beauty of taking charge of your health. Okay, story number 2. This other girl, now both of these girls are in their 20s. Okay. Other girl, dealt with barely any periods all her life. They were always inconsistent. Sometimes she would go, months without a period. I can't remember if there was 2 years one time where she didn't have any at all. I don't remember, but I just remember it was a long time. And now, we've been working together for quite some time. And finally, there's so many changes in her life, in her health, in her body, in her life, and all of that. So many changes for the good. And all of a sudden, a couple months ago, she messaged me and she's like, I got my period. And it was like this big celebratory thing, which is so amazing, so exciting. And so she got her period for the first time. And then a month later, just last week, she messaged me and she's like, I got my cycle. I got my period again. And it was the 29, 28, 29-day cycle. She got it. It came and it went. And the other thing is, she's like, I'm actually having like period symptoms. I'm having, sore boobs leading up to my period. And she's like, I've never had that. I'm like, that's not uncommon. It's not uncommon to feel those things, or maybe a little bit more tired, or maybe a little bit of cravings. And she's like, this is what my girlfriends all talked about, but I've never experienced it. And now I'm experiencing what they said they experience, with some of these things. And that was a good sign. And so I want to share that because it's very important for you guys to know and understand that there's so much that can be done naturally if we just know what to give it. And that is by doing the proper testing to find out. If you're going to the doctor because of period issues and they're not checking your thyroid, your iron, and your hormones, they got no business slapping birth control on there. No business. I don't care if it's a family doctor, OBGYN, endocrinologist, don't care. They got no business putting you on birth control. That's not fixing the problem. Some things that can, you know, lead into like irregular periods and stuff is like if you have PCOS, it's not uncommon for periods to be irregular. PCOS is insulin resistance, so we have to really work on insulin and the gut and all of that. If you have thyroid issues, not everybody, but some people, if they have thyroid issues, it can affect the period because it can affect the rest of your hormones. But again, it's not everybody. It's so individual. Hashimoto's potentially, but again, it's so individual. But one of the things to know about periods being irregular and all that is if you have really high testosterone, that which is usually like PCOS, that can affect it. But also I see a lot of very low progesterone. And low progesterone isn't good. Like the amount of people that I see that have low progesterone is astronomical. And it shouldn't be happening. You need proper progesterone for the hormones and the female cycle and childbearing. So progesterone's job, when you get pregnant, progesterone's job is to keep you pregnant, keep the baby in. If you don't have enough progesterone, the body may miscarry. And, I had a dear friend of mine that, had many miscarriages. And finally, we were having a conversation, and I was like, are they checking your progesterone? Because they were checking other things. And she's like, no, I don't think they've ever checked my progesterone. I was like, why the heck aren't they checking your progesterone? That is an important hormone for pregnancy. And she's like, well, they're checking FSH and LH. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine and all, but what's your progesterone? And she had to beg her doctors to check her progesterone. And finally, they, kept saying like it's not important. And finally, they checked it, and lo and behold, she had low progesterone, which could be why her body just was never able to carry through with the pregnancy. So, in the beginning of your pregnancy, progesterone needs to be high enough, which, if you have a good doctor and you don't have high enough progesterone in the first trimester, so they may give you progesterone to make sure that your progesterone, is high enough to carry through with the pregnancy. And then towards the end of the pregnancy, estrogen's job is to help you birth the baby. So when you're in that third trimester, towards the end, you'll notice that your estrogen levels go up, and that's why you get like really loose hips, and you'll have more body fat. You might gain a little bit more weight during that time. And a big piece of that is because of estrogen. Estrogen lives in your fat cells, but estrogen's job is to help birth the baby. And if you don't, have enough estrogen, well, it might be harder. But naturally, you're supposed to, for your estrogen to bump up quite a bit in the third trimester to prepare your body for birth. But if you have too high estrogen in the beginning and too low progesterone, that's when miscarriages can happen. So those are really important things to know when it comes to your hormones, and just things that generally might not be told to you. There was a client that I worked with. I mean, I've now had, oh my gosh, in the last year, 3 people that got pregnant. I call them undiet you babies. So 3 women at the time now are pregnant. They're going to have their babies in 2025. Like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. So this one gal, she had already had one kiddo. When she came to me, she had miscarried, and she was, just in that place of like, I don't know if my body can do this, but I do want to have more kiddos. And she was never told any of these types of things or helped with that. So anyway, so we started working together, and in less than 12 weeks in, all of a sudden she got pregnant, and now she's going to have a baby in 2025, and it's like, "Oh my gosh. This is amazing." Okay, so a few months later, I have another gal, and all of a sudden I get a message, and she's like, "I'm pregnant," and I wasn't even, none of these ladies were trying. She's like, "I wasn't even trying." This is someone that had, maybe has PCOS, thyroid issues. Other one had thyroid issues too, which is another thing that you need to be very, very aware of when it comes to pregnancy is, do you have any thyroid issues going on? And what's crazy is the second one, she went to see her endocrinologist, and her endocrinologist seemed like, she literally messaged me. The girl messaged me, and she's like, I think my endo was pissed because she was pregnant. I was like, why would she be pissed if you're pregnant? And she said, well, before when she went to see her, it was, hey, you have thyroid stuff going on, PCOS and whatever. And she had told her that at some point they want to try to have another baby. And her endo didn't even check her hormones and nothing in terms of fertility. She just said, well, when you're ready to get pregnant again, we'll talk fertility treatments. And I was like, why? Well, there's a lot of money in fertility treatments. And I was like, why would she do that if she hasn't even checked your hormones? She hasn't, looked at dietary things like, what can we do? Like, what does your body need? What's it deficient in? What does it need? What are all the things we can do before we even go into fertility treatments? But she didn't want anything to do with it. And so anyway, so her and her husband leave, and her husband was like, was she mad that you're pregnant? And she was like, yeah, I think so. Well, the following week, she gets an email from the doctor, and basically the doctor like fired her and was like, I can't help you anymore because you're pregnant. I was like, oh my gosh. So anyway, now she's gonna have a baby. And then I found out the other week, I had another gal that I previously worked with, and she's like, by the way, I'm pregnant. I'm gonna have a baby. So, these things are so important. I want you guys to know periods are very, very important. Irregular periods, terrible periods, nonstop periods, all of these things are signs that your body is screaming at you and saying, I need something different. I need a different approach. And you need to find out, like, what is it that your body is needing? It's typically vitamins and minerals, adjustment in your dietary intake. Like, what do you need to bring in dietary wise? I'll tell you a couple things, like with progesterone supporting foods, you're looking at sweet potatoes and avocados and bananas, some nuts and seeds. It just really, really depends. But sweet potatoes specifically are really good for supporting progesterone. And so it comes from whole foods. And so if you want to support your period and your cycles, and if you're someone that wants to support, future fertility, then these are things that you want to look at. And I'll go back to the blood work. Like, blood work is so incredibly important. People ask me all the time, like, why? Or they say, I don't have a doctor. I'm like, listen, when you're working with me, you don't need to go to your doctor. I ordered a blood work for you. Okay. You go get your blood drawn. And then once your blood results come back into my portal, we sit down, we go over them together on Zoom, screen share it, and you'll get a deeper explanation of that blood work than you ever have. And then, we discuss what the plan is from there. And so you can do that working with me in my 12-week program, or you can do it just with the treatment plan. So if you don't want to go through the 12-week program, you can just do like lab work with the treatment plan. But either way, if you are in this situation and in this position, please book a consultation with me. You can go to www.undietU.com and click the link where it says book your consultation. You fill out a form, book a consultation at a time that works best for you based on my availability. When we go, have that consultation, I want you to think of it as a doctor's appointment, except you get 45 minutes instead of 15 minutes. And I'm going to ask you a lot of questions about your health history to get a really deep understanding of what's going on and then how I can help you from there. And so I take this very, very seriously, and it's very comprehensive, but the results that you get are astronomical. It's life-changing. And so I want to invite you in to take, go book a consultation, and let's get you feeling better. So remember this: period symptoms, extreme period symptoms, cramping, irregular periods, non-existent periods, all of those things, not normal. Shouldn't be normal. Common, but not normal. So know that there are so many things that you can do. All right, I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning into the Lizzie Ens Show. If you're ready to take the next step to transforming your health and life, visit www.undietU.com for all my resources and to book your consultation today. Don't forget to subscribe and join me each week for more tips, inspiration, and conversations with phenomenal guests to help you feel your best. See you guys next week.